Hey guys, it's Tony from Wood Tramp Outdoors. I've had a letter come in asking me to give some more details on my mobile installation. So hang tight, I'm going to do that. All right, guys, welcome back. Before I proceed, just look up here on the screen. This particular segment is brought to you by Ham Radio Prep, your one-stop shop for all things ham radio related education, upgrading your license, and just making you a better operator. So this letter I got here, it's not a letter, it's an email, came from a guy. His name is Evan. Evan is in Dallas, Texas. And Evan says, Tony, I also have the 7100, just bought it, and I read your article, and I see that you are going to install the ALPHA Moto. Can you please give details on that installation? I have a Ford also, and the aluminum body is giving me fits. Okay, Evan, here's the deal. Let me just talk about this. The article he's referring to came out of the last special edition of Wood Tramp Outdoors magazine. And in it we did an introductory to ham radio prep, or not ham radio prep, just ham radio, period. And it was just basically introducing you to the fact that we are exploring ham radio, and we would like to expose it to more people that are outdoors minded. You know, it doesn't matter if you're just a regular outdoorsman, fisherman, hunter, or you're more serious, you're a prepper, you're a survivalist, but especially homesteaders also. We want to get you thinking about this. So here's how this went, Evan. When we decided to do this series, I reached out to some of the well-known folks in the industry, and I took those names by suggestion, and the radio came from ICOM, and I was given the privilege of hooking up with Ray Novak. He happens to be the sales manager for ICOM America, North America. He's the top banana guy there, and he knows everything about ICOM that you can imagine. And I was on the phone with him, and he asked me what I was wanting to do, and I told him I want to be able to have mobile capabilities, and I want to be able to have base capabilities. And what he said to me was, you know, the 7100 is great for mobile. It can be used for base as well, and I've learned that from a lot of guys that have written me, said I don't use it for a mobile, I use it for my base, which is not a bad idea because it's a VHF, UHF, and HF capable radio. And for the base station, he said the 7300 would fill the bill. Okay, so now what you are going to see here, I'm going to show you a video. So putting a radio, any radio, doesn't matter who makes it, into a late model Ford that has the aluminum body creates a grounding issue, because you can't just ground it to the body. You just can't put a jam mount on or a truck bed mount and it's going to ground right down to the body, down to the frame. It doesn't do that. You have to get up under the truck, and you have to ground everything to your frame. And so that's the first consideration. The second consideration is just how much should it be grounded. Yeah. I was watching a video, and by the way, a lot of the inspiration for my installation of the antennas came from K2 CJB up in Connecticut. I'll show you here just a second his YouTube channel, and I watched him all the time, man. He's got a lot of corn in the crib, and I was watching his installation, and I pretty much followed it except for his suggestion to add more grounding strap around the frame of the truck. Now I'm going to reach out to him and I'm going to ask him exactly what he did with that. But I do appreciate what he did do, because he got me thinking and put me on the right direction. So the radio that we use, as I said, is the 7100. I'll show this to you right here. And the reason is that you know, Ray Novak said this is the guy that you're going to want. All right, you got to trust the experts. I mean, that you either do or you don't. It's like the Bible almost. You either believe it or you don't. If you believe it, great. If you don't, that's up to you. But you want to get an expert, and the expert for me was Ray Novak, and Ray said 7100. After I spoke to Ray, I just didn't take it for granted that that's what I got to have. I reached out to other people in the ham radio community that I'd had the opportunity to bump elbows with, and they concurred. They said the 7100 is a rock solid option, especially if you're going to be running it mobile. And there are ways that you can use it for POTA as well. So yeah, I got the 7100, and the installation of it, it was a little bit tricky because, you know, almost every company that makes mounts for the 7100, they want to place them down on the floor with a long extension arm, or they want to put them in a cup, the cup holder. And I didn't want to do any of those. I wanted it up on my dash, and you'll see that in this video. That's exactly what I did. Now, in order to do that, I had to take an old bracket that I had laying around from a prior project. I had to cut it down. I had to grind it down, paint it a little bit to make it look a little bit decent. And then I had to modify a phone mount that was in my truck that I had been using. I've got two of these phone mounts right up on the dash, kind of in the area where I wanted it at, and I modified it and I made it work. So that was really the most difficult thing, sitting there trying to figure out how you're going to put the IC 7100 up on that dash so it'll be stable. Well, you'll see what I did right here. And then the next consideration was the antenna. You actually have to have two. You have to have one for the VHF UHF and also for HF. So I reached out to ALPHA Antenna, spoke with Steve, who is the owner there. Man, I had a great time talking with him. You know, I think the interview was scheduled for like 30 minutes. We spoke for almost 2 hours. He was actually doing most of the speaking, and I'm writing notes that had very little to do with the article, but it was about his knowledge of antennas. And I learned more in that time about antennas than I had in the last 6 months reading books, and that's the truth. I mean, he dumbs it down for guys like me pretty simple, or he can take you on a cerebral journey also if that's your flavor. But what he suggested was the VHF UHF 4-band antenna that covers 144, 220, 440, and 900. But he also suggested the magnetic mount, and magnetic mount isn't going to work on an aluminum truck, you know, so we had to redo that, which was nothing. All he did was sent me a bracket for the right front fender, and that was an easy install for that. And then for the HF, he suggested the HF Moto. 6, 10, 12, 15, 17, 20, 30, and 40 meters. Has a maximum output of 100 PEP, and comes with a 5.5 inch whip. And I got to tell you that after watching K2 CJB on YouTube, he made sense as to how he was installing his HF antenna. Now he put one on each side of the bed. With the HF Moto, you don't. You just need to do it in one area. And once I got that installed, and went to test it out, I was amazed. Running down the highway, I live in central Illinois, running down the highway, not stopping, I was making contacts to each of the coasts, the Carolinas, out to California, up into the middle of Canada, all the way down to southern Texas, Florida, in between. I got to say that I'm very impressed with that antenna system from Alpha, and everybody else that ever saw this match on my truck has said, hey, you know, he makes the best, and everybody tries to copy after him. So that is great. And so here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to get out of the way here, Evan, and let you see what I did in my truck. All right, and I'll be back and we'll wrap it up. Okay, so I'm not using a tripod, obviously, but this is the inside of my 2015. And, you know, for about 4 or 5 years, they all look pretty much the same. And I wanted to be able to have it accessible while I'm sitting and driving, to be able to reach up and do whatever I needed to do. And that created a little bit of an issue for me. How are you going to mount this radio? That was the first thing. And what I had to end up doing is I had 2 of these. This is for a phone here. This is a magnetic phone mount. You can see that right there. And that's Mo. So I had one here and then one here also. And what I did was I took it apart. They're easy to take apart. And then I fabricated a bracket. And I'll show you the bracket as well, so you can have an understanding. And for me, the bracket had to have capabilities to remove it so I could take it in and out, not only for security reasons, but also, you know, you don't want the hot sun or the extreme cold temps like we have right now. It's pretty cold out. Today happens to be a warmer day, about 40 degrees. But the temps recently have been, you know, in the single digits. And so I want to be able to take the radio in and out. And I put a camera mount on it, just a regular camera mount, and I'm going to show that to you. Okay, so I've taken the radio off so you can see this here. But basically, again, this is what this is right here. And I took it apart and I took a bracket that I had left over from another project. I had to cut it down on the saw and put it on the grinder to be able to make it, to be able to fit. And then I attached it to this bracket. You can see this is a camera mount here with a spring-loaded release button. And on the back of the camera, or the bottom of the, not the camera, but the bottom of the radio, that's how the bracket is fit in there, okay? So it's something, if you're going to use this, you're going to have to come up with some ingenuity, but if you're a ham operator, fabricating stuff isn't hard for you. So all I do is just slip it in there, snap it in, and that joker is as tight as could be, okay? Now, when you're talking about hooking the radio up, the bracket was the first consideration for me, because to me that was really the hardest. But then, you know, how do you get power to that? Well, the main unit I put under the back seat right here, and with this particular antenna system that I have that I'm going to show you, it needed, that's a bleed control bag right there, winter bag, bleed control bag, that's the way that is. Okay, so I put the main head here, and I had to run the power cords and also the UHF VHF antenna from the front of the truck. Okay, so let's do that first. Let me show you the power You know, this is not anything special. And by the way, this wasn't my idea. I got my idea from a guy that is pretty popular on YouTube. I'm going to show you his call sign here in a minute. He's very, very sharp. But this is the power, just very simple. You know, you've got your positive side, you got your negative side, and I ran it across the top. I didn't cut the cable ties off yet, but I secured it that way and came through and went down here through that boot down there. I'm hoping that you're able to see where the wires go through. I did it a little bit different that some other people did, and it's not exactly how I want it. Next time I take my truck in for an oil change, I'm going to have my guy button that up just a little bit better. But in order to run that length, I had to buy more power cable, and I had to solder it together, shrink tube, etc., etc. All right, and then that goes in through here. You have to excuse this dirty truck. I haven't had it cleaned for a while. And I had to pop off all the trim down here, and the cables are ran up under here. Okay, they come through here, right? And you can see where they got a little bit exposed here because I didn't want to get anal with it. And they go into the radio. So that's how the radio is powered. And then the data cable that you see here, that runs through and comes out here. I'm going to tuck it in just a little bit better, probably put it under the carpet up to this point. And then of course the microphone just does the microphone thing. I reached out to ALPHA Antenna, and I talked to Steve at ALPHA, the owner, engineer, the chief cook, bottle washer, and he is probably one of the most knowledgeable people on the planet when it comes to antennas. And he hooked me up with this VHF UHF antenna that is absolutely awesome. Now, when you're talking about putting a radio in your truck, and this particular truck, this whole body is made out of aluminum. You have to create a grounding system. And what I did was at the suggestion of the operator I told you about, I grabbed some of this braided clad copper wire, and it hooks into the mounting bracket for the antenna, and then it goes down to my frame where I don't know if you'll be able to see this. Oh yeah, we can see it down there. I drill a hole and it is grounded to the frame itself. Performance is outstanding. Not only does it hit our repeaters, but I've been out on the highway and I've been able to make some contacts when I was out there. HF was a concern, and what Steve suggested was the moto with it's about a 5-foot whip, I guess. Again, the grounding issue is what you have to really think about, and it's not hard. What I did was I mounted the bracket here, and the grounding cable goes all the way under, as does the antenna, right? The coax, rather, I'm sorry. The coax. And the coax goes into the truck underneath here. You can see some of it back there. Goes up above the frame, and you can't see back here at all. But what I can tell you is behind the seat, and to get to this is a booger. To be able to drop this seat down on a Ford, 2015 Ford, is rough. But behind this seat, if you go straight back towards the back, there are two things that are important. Number one, there is a rubber grommet, a round rubber grommet that I sliced and put the coax through. And there's also a ground lug that Ford put in there in case you had to, ground something. The radio is actually grounded there, as is the tuner. And then, just put the coax in and you're rocking and rolling. Now, how does it perform? That was one of the questions that people were asking me. How well does this perform? It performs awesome. Running down the highway, I've made contacts. I'm in central Illinois. Running down the highway with this radio, I've made contacts to the West Coast, the East Coast, as far down as Galveston, Texas, Quebec, Ontario, New York. I have not had any DX as of yet, but I'm thinking that there's a couple things that I can do to make that happen. Now, I'm going to put all the dope on this match and its performance on the video. I'll plug it in for you there so you'll have more information on the antennas themselves and the match that this is right here. Now, all right, so that's kind of it for what I was wanting to do there, but one of the questions that we received was, you know, am I satisfied with the performance of the 7100 in this truck with this particular antenna system? And I'm saying absolutely yes. I know there are those that might be able to get better performance out of it. We'll see. The only thing that I think that I'm going to do right now, I told you that cable right there for ground, you know, that braided cable, it goes down to the frame there and it stops. That's it. But I have been told that I should probably run that copper all the way to the front, back across, back this way, and return it to create a loop, a grounding type of loop to be able to have a better ground plane. I don't know. I'm still researching that out. But if I do anything else, that'll be it, because I'm very happy with the Moto from Alpha Antenna. It's a really good unit. And like I said, everybody that I've talked to or that have seen this said that's the one you really want to have. So, all right. So there you go. You know, I mean, I'm happy with the installation. I don't think that I'm going to change very much about it other than adding some ground after I talk to K2CJB. I've got it on my schedule to email him, see if I can get him on the phone. Hopefully he's got time for that. He seems to be a very cordial individual that loves ham radio. So it's not really hard. You just got to take the grounding consideration and don't compromise on that. You know, do what you have to do. So you might want to keep an eye on the channel here. Because after I talk to him, I may be adding some more. Now, here's the thing about ham radio that I've learned very, very quickly. You ask 10 guys the same question, you're going to get 10 different answers, 10 different opinions. You know, it's fun. It's a fun conversation. So thank you for the question, man. I appreciate it. And hopefully you'll be able to send us an email, drop us a line, and let us know your success story. So until next time, you stay safe out there, especially if you're talking on the radio when you're rolling down the road.